Hi everyone, this is Jim. Today I wanted to take a look at one of the great tactics in chess history. This comes from the famous gold coins game played by Frank Marshall. And the story goes that after he played the game, actually what Marshall wrote himself was that after he played the winning move that there were 3 gold coins were thrown down onto the board. The story got enhanced over the years, and I've heard it said that the board was showered with gold and coins. Anyway, let's take a look at this position. It's White's turn to move here. Frank Marshall is playing black, and he's just snagged a bishop. He just played the move rook takes h3, grabbing the bishop there, and White can't take back because of the knight check. Knight here check would win the queen. So White is just down a piece at this point. And he's trying to struggle on, maybe try and chase the queen away, and then, or if he could chase the knight away, I guess maybe he could grab the rook. So he's still playing, but actually he's lost in this position already. He played the move rook c5, hitting the queen. And now there are several moves that win for black. It's Marshall's turn, and he is just basically a piece up, and there's various ways to hold on to the piece. But what Marshall played is the most the most fascinating move on the board, the most dramatic move on the board. So if you want to see if you can figure out what the move is here that Marshall played, you can think about it. I just wanted to warn you that it's not the only winning move. So it's not a great chess puzzle, this position, but if you want to find a dramatic move here that wins, you can spend some time thinking about it. Okay, pause the video now and I will show you the move that he played. I mean, pause the video now if you want to think about it. I'm going to show you the move that he played. He played queen to g3. So it's a great move, isn't it? The queen could be taken 3 different ways, and none of them are good for White. So if you want to treat this position as a tactical puzzle, see if you can figure out what goes on here after each of the possible recaptures or captures of the queen. And yeah, go ahead and pause the video if you want to do that. It's a good exercise worth playing around with. Anyway, I am going to give the answer away here in great detail. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on here. First of all, there's a very simple threat of queen takes h2 checkmate. So you have to consider what to do about that. There's no piece that can protect the h2 square. So we'll look at various ways of taking the queen later. Notice that you can't take the rook because that pawn is pinned. So that was one of the ideas of queen g3. Not only threatens mate, but it also pins this pawn so that you can't take the rook. So there's different things that black could try, but suppose he just tries creating space, just running away, say running here with the rook. Unfortunately, that doesn't work because queen here check, king goes to f1, and queen here is mate because this knight, this nasty knight here, is guarding the escape square. So that doesn't work. Another kind of escape artist technique you might try here is moving the pawn forward, pawn to f4. But this is pretty simple to refute as well. The knight comes in here, knight to e2 check, drives the king to the corner, and then queen takes h2 as mate. So no escaping from mate by just trying to create escape squares for the king. So you're forced to take the queen, but here's where the cleverness comes. How can you take the queen? The first way you might try is with the h-pawn. So if you play h takes, then knight to e2 is mate. This old knight sitting on e2, and the king has no escape squares. It's guarded by the king. Okay, how about with the other pawn, f takes g3? Once again, you have this knight move, and notice that this rook is guarding the escape squares all along this file, so the king has to go back to the corner and then this rook comes in and delivers mate. So all those pieces working together to deliver mate in all these different combinations. So the third and final way to take the queen is just to take it with the queen. But this loses, it doesn't lose to a mate, but it loses material because, once again, knight e2 check. King runs away, knight here check. And you can't take the knight. If you take, well, you can't take this way because that pawn is pinned, and if you take this way, rook takes his mate again. So the king has to move. Then it's knight here check, the king goes back, and then you save your rook, and then you're just a piece up, say rook to c3. And so that's the winning idea. You've gotten the queens off, and you've saved your extra piece. So anyway, at this point, after queen to g3, right here in this position, after queen to g3, white resigned, and the coins were thrown onto the board, whether it was 3 or whether there was a shower. You get the idea. So I thought it might be interesting. That's the most famous part of the game, but it might be interesting to go through the whole game. So I did a quick annotation of it. There's some interesting points. It kind of shows a lot of Marshall's style here. So this started off as a French defense with d4, e6, e4, a little bit of a different move order, but getting into the French defense. d5, knight c3, playing for the classical or the win-hour variation. But Marshall plays c5 here, and this is actually a bad move, and it's typical of Marshall's style. There's many gambits that he played. The most famous Marshall gambit is in the Ruy Lopez. That's quite solid and sound and still played today. There's also a Marshall gambit in the semi-Slav defense, which is good. But most other opening innovations named after Marshall are not good. He could get away with this because he didn't mind giving up a pawn to get an interesting and novel position. But this doesn't work. Let's see. His opponent played knight f3, which is not bad. But actually the way to refute this is to go ahead and take the pawn. You take on d5 here first, take back, take on c5, and then bishop takes, and then grab here. And you're just a pawn up, and with a decent position. So there's just not enough compensation there. And people have tried that. I kind of wondered where this c5 move was coming from, but I've seen this in Blitz, so that's how you play against it. If you see that, you take this pawn, then you take this pawn, and then you grab that pawn with the queen. There is one complicated line that that black can try. After d takes c5, black can try pushing on with d4. But it doesn't quite work in this case. First of all, you throw in a couple of checks. Check here, just to get your pieces developed. You get some free development here with these checks. Knight to c6, queen here, check, bishop to e6, blocking it, and then knight to e4, getting your knight out of trouble and defending this pawn. And you just stay a pawn up, and also a good position for white. You've gotten in some development as well. So that's this particular move here, c5. I was kind of wondering where it came from. I noticed it showing up in some of my games not too long ago. And I was thinking, what's up with that? So they must have seen this game and played it. Anyway, let's go back to the game. The game went c5, and let's see, knight to f3 was played, which is also keeping an edge for white. White is still better here. Knight c6, and now white takes and plays bishop e2. And bishop e2 is kind of a slow move, and that's when the game becomes about even. Playing a little more actively with bishop to b5 is the way for white to keep an advantage. But anyway, the game went bishop e2, and now we get Marshall in his element. He's got an even position, and it gets complicated very quickly. Knight to f6, castles. Oh, maybe not quickly. Let's go on a few moves. Bishop e7, bishop g5, castles. D takes c5. So now we get now white grabs that pawn, but black can choose to take it back at any time here. Well, Marshall continues his development. Bishop e6, knight to d4 was played here, hitting the bishop, and now he grabs the pawn. And notice that he's not afraid of giving up the bishop pair. He doesn't mind giving up the bishop pair here. He's happy to have his knights. And in fact, this is already a pretty good position for black. His pieces are actively posted, and he has more center influence with these pawns. Let's see, bishop to g4 was played now. Cancel that. Bishop to g4. Targeting this potentially weak pawn here. Queen to d6, getting the queen off the back rank and defending. Bishop drops back to h3. I'm not sure about... Oh, it's because the knight was unpinned, right? The knight was attacking the bishop, so that must have been part of Levitsky's idea. This was Stefan Levitsky with the white pieces and Frank Marshall with the black pieces. Okay, so rook a to e8 was played here. Another defender for the pawn, and maybe with the idea of pushing these central pawns forward. Queen to d2, bishop to b4, pinning the knight. Bishop takes f6, so Levitsky decides to give up the bishop pair, but get rid of one of those dangerous knights. Rook a to d1 was played, getting all of his pieces out. Levitsky did not play a bad game. He just made one mistake, and we'll get to that crucial point pretty soon. Queen to c5, queen to e2. Bishop takes c3. So this is already starting to be trouble here. That black can win a pawn here, and but Levitsky has an interesting idea. After queen takes c3, he plays rook takes d5, and it's all still okay. This rook is hanging here, but it's pinned. So Levitsky is making use of the tactics here as well. But like I said, this is Marshall in his element. When there's tactics on the board, he's going to start playing some tricky moves, and you've got to be on your toes. So Marshall plays the move knight to d4 with the idea of chasing this queen away, unpinning the pawn, and being able to take the rook. So the queen needs to move, and actually there is only one move that continues the game. And it's still about even here if Levitsky had found the right move. Now, there's some moves that don't work, including what he played. Just to give you an idea of some of the problems here, if you play queen e5, just bringing your queen up to an active post here, keeping this pin, and then also defending the rook against other attacks. Well, I don't know, preparing to move the rook maybe to c5 to harass the queen or something like that. It's a tempting move, but knight f3 check, and this actually loses. This if you take the knight, then rook to g6 check, the bishop comes back to block, and then the queen comes over, and the attack is too strong. So this is a very tricky position. The only move that keeps the game going is queen to e4. Staying away from that fork trick with the knight, keeping the pin on, and then the game might continue like this. If he takes the rook here, you can take here, and it's about an even game. And it's not clear that black has anything better, although no doubt Marshall would try and find something something tricky. Anyway, but Levitsky makes the mistake here. He plays queen to h5, which looks good at first. I mean, he unpinned this pawn, so now this this rook is hanging. But at the same time, he's attacking this rook over here. This rook is loose on e8. So a simple trade of rooks is not going to lead anywhere. But Marshall finds the one winning move here. There's another point in the game where you might want to pause and see if you can find the one move that wins here. Okay, what Marshall played was rook e to f8. So what it does is it gets this rook out of trouble. So now this is hanging, and he's got threats on f2 and on the back rank. So and there are also other threats in the position. Let's see. Levitsky played rook to e5, just getting the rook away from trouble. And now Marshall played rook h6. I just wanted to point out that there's also a problem here, that you can just take this pawn here. Rook takes f2. He can't take back because of the back rank. Queen here, check, and there's a mate coming. So rook to f2 is a strong move as well. But what Marshall played, he had spotted no doubt, is rook to h6. with the idea of just winning a piece here. The queen ran away to g5, and then rook takes h3, grabbing that bishop, and this is where we came in. This is where Levitsky tried rook to c5, and I just wanted to point out again, yeah, that you can't take that rook because of the knight fork here. So rook to c5, queen to g3, and we've reached the final position again. The gold coins come showering down on the board. Okay, hope you guys liked this video. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.